Do you find it difficult to focus on your customers and even your own employees as you're juggling numerous vendors? Do you have more meetings with vendors than you can count? And do their reports filled with technical jargon make you feel clueless and frustrated? Such is the story of Nathan. Being at a car dealership, he's concerned about his store's digital marketing presence and invests most of his time dealing with vendors to promote his business and gain more sales and market share. Nathan is busy handling reports and reviewing them, not knowing what is happening on the advertising front and about his true ROI. Poor Nathan is worried but can't figure out a solution until he found BZ Consultants Group. BZ Consultants stepped in and was able to take the digital marketing vendor burden off Nathan's plate, giving him peace of mind that the best interest of the dealer was always top of mind. Being an unbiased third party, BZ Consultants always made sure to relay the reports in easy, relatable, and actionable ways so that Nathan could best utilize the data. Now, Nathan can focus on what he really wanted, the customer experience and growth. By being your digital marketing business partner, BZ Consultants Group will remove the hassle trying to hold your vendors accountable and increase your productivity with the time you will now have armed with true data. Together, we make it possible because your success is our goal.
Welcome into the Furniss Fast Lanes. Facts, not feelings, Furniss Fast Lane, everyone. Hope you are having an awesome Friday. And even better, Sandy, it is the first Friday, first day of the month. We have got February in our rearview mirror. End of month is over. We can all relax. Well, relax for a little bit. But everyone, we have the incredible Sandy Zannino in here with us today. Sandy, welcome in.
Hey, Brooke. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Here we are in the fast lane. Gonna have fun.
It's been a long week. Like you and I, you were conversing back and forth in email yesterday, and I just go, "Did I hear you? I want to take a nap right now because it has just been a chaotic week. Can I just sleep this entire week?" We're going to see how long we go.
You've had a really crazy week, though, between weather. I mean, you had tornadoes, you had nice warm weather, you were doing your walk, and then this morning you were like, you had your hat and your gloves and. That's kind of like a day in the life of the car business, isn't it?
I know. I just go, this entire week encapsulates everything that has been going on the week and everything between. Because no joke, I think it was Sunday, it was 70 degrees. On Saturday, it was 68, which is not normal in February for Chicago. It's usually like negative 68. And then Sunday night, we get hit with tornadoes. I mean, there was one that touched down just like really close to us. We had friends that just have their house has been obliterated. I won't say obliterated, but it's just crazy. And the next day was -8 in the morning. Sorry, 8 degrees in the morning. And then crazy. It's just been. I don't get it. I've given up trying to figure out what the hell is going on in Chicago in this February weather because we're used to having cold weather, but tornadoes, no, not happening. No.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of tornadoes there, right? It's not like your normal. I mean.
We're not like Oklahoma or something like that, or Alabama, Arkansas, where they're just getting obliterated by wonderful tornadoes, or even like hurricanes and stuff. Like you have to deal with hurricanes, right?
Yeah, hurricanes are a thing for sure here in Florida. I've been through a couple. Lucky lately, I don't know, like over the last 6-7 years, maybe 10 years, they've just gotten bigger. Like I didn't used to worry and never went anywhere. Jeez. And but it's scary though with the tornado, isn't it? You always have those too, the tornado watch after the hurricane.
It's crazy. Like, and before I go further, Russell, hello to you, Peter. Hello to you. Russell. Is that Russell? I was talking to a colleague that was in Texas, and when we were having the 70 degree-ish weather, he's like, "Yeah, it's 90 degrees in Texas." And I go, "Hold up, like." Granted, I'd love that, but if it's 90 degrees already in Texas, you guys are screwed for the summer.
Well, then did you see Texas had like the crazy freezing? I saw some videos where like girls were getting their hair wet and then flipping it up, and it was just standing like frozen in place.
And when I was young, I never believed that if you go outside with wet hair, that it would break off. So I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 maybe. At the time I was born in Idaho, so I'm in Idaho, and I'm sitting at the bus stop waiting for the bus to come, and I take my hair and I just snap. I was like, "Oh, it really does break off if it's cold enough, so don't do that. It's really bad for your."
Well, I just got a flash of like kids putting their tongue on a like a
The Christmas story, man. Don't do it. Do not do it.
not try this in at home. Right.
Things not to
Oh,
do at
somebody.
home. Or like the one where if it's I can't remember what temperature it has to get to, but a certain temperature, and you can take a thing of water and like throw it in the air and it just evaporates before it ever hits the ground. So that's what we're used to in February. Like, I don't like it. I hate it. I'll take the 70-degree weather. But if that means tornadoes and then going back down to 8, like, can we just choose a temperature? I mean, I know it's a little, maybe a much to ask out here, but I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
Pick a season, right? Pick a season.
Yeah, right. We've had all 4 in like 24 hours. So yes.
It really does remind me though of the cart business, right? Like when I think about my career in retail, I was never bored. I never knew what was going to happen each day, right?
Always
Especially in HR, right? And in operations, really running a corporate office. I never knew what each day was going to bring. And, I would make plans, of course, for what I was going to be doing that day. And then either God would laugh or the dealer would laugh and be like, yeah, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. You thought we were going this way. We're actually going to go this way. So good luck with that one. Especially as HR. Like, it's just like, I think this industry in general, I love it so much. And if you ever are bored, I don't know how you could be, because you think you've seen it all. And then all of a sudden something happens. You're like, wow, okay, I just ate my words.
New.
And that, like, you're never surprised when shit goes sideways, or like, oh, hold up, you're coming in to complain about what, or you're coming in about this issue for HR or whatever it may be. But I'm just, I remember sitting outside my office in the dealership was right outside the HR office. And it was just a revolving, like certain weeks, it was just a revolving door. Other ones, no one had ever even entered the building. So it's just, you never dull. You're never bored in our industry. It's never a dull moment.
Never, ever dull. And Brooke, you mentioned something that I think I would like to give a response out to. You mentioned you never know when an employee is going to make a complaint or something, right? And this probably is the toughest thing, because if a complaint happens, right, you're a manager, you never know what's happening in there's customers, there's there maybe floor plans in, and you're doing an audit, it could be any number of things that are happening, right? And the last thing you need is an employee coming with a complaint. So
it happens at the worst time.
It really does. And sometimes it's easier to say how to not do something than it is to say how to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And I have heard so many different responses, like it's good. She didn't mean it. Well, I'll take care of this later. Don't worry, I got your back. Or especially my favorite is, like, it's the car business. What could you possibly expect? What I would like to give everybody is like a way to respond. Always just say, hey, thanks for bringing this to our attention. We take this really seriously. And so I have to elevate it to the next steps, whatever your policy says, right? That's what you do. You, as a manager, you don't have to begin an investigation. In fact, you probably shouldn't.
We've got Peter saying, ask my wife, I never complain about the mistakes I make. Good. See, Peter, you were trained very well.
Very smart, Peter. And hi, by the way, Jamie Alexander is watching.
I've got Jeff, our OG Jeff, who's been with us since day one. And of course, we got Russell, everyone else on here. But Peter, I do want to say that I just kudos to that. Like, there's so many people that haven't quite figured that one out. So you got a happy wife, happy life. There you go, for sure.
Happy customers, happy employees, happy customers, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's so often as we forget that if the employee doesn't understand the why, or we're not investigating the employee's why, or we don't understand the employee in general, or what makes them tick, or why are they happy? If they're not happy, that is going to trickle down to the consumer every single time. You cannot ask someone to run through a wall when you haven't given them the reason why, or that they know that you're going to have their back and that you're there for them. I saw my good friend Josh Dreen. does a ton with HR, and it is very, very big in his space. And he had a reel the other day that was just more or less talking about, I can't remember who it was, but I believe it was in the, I think it was in the car industry, where a new manager came in and decided that expenses had to be cut. Okay, that's understandable. But he asked every single employee to take because his father had the dealership, father passed away, and he wanted every single employee to take a significant cut. That's what I said there. Cut is what I said there. It's already off the rails, guys. Already off the rails. Off the rails. Cut is what I said. And yes, this is the joys of the live show.
So he asked everybody to take a pay cut.
Yeah, and you can't edit out what I just said there, so because it's live. So we're gonna roll with this one.
Keep going.
And he just more or less was strong arming them and saying not that he was gonna increase anything else or increase benefits, but just take a pay cut. And at that point, he's like, if you don't agree with me, here's the door, get your ass out of here. Every single employee left. All of them left. He did not have a dealership. He killed the dealership. Like in 16 seconds, he killed the dealership. But it's things like that. And Josh, I knew that you would come in with that.
I gotta look. That's
and then, yes,
Brian Ortega. Brian is
well, you know what? It's part of it. Like I'm still, for those who don't know, I came back from NADA with pneumonia, bronchitis, laryngitis, hence the voice right now, double infection, and a sinus infection. And it's been tomorrow will be 4 weeks. So I went back in the doctor again. I've already been on steroids. I've been on antibiotics. So I go back in this morning and she's like, how the hell is anything living through this? I'm like, I don't know, but so I'm on like another round of antibiotics, another round of steroids. Like I'm going to be a roid monster by the end of this. But so like part of it is like you're trying to talk and words aren't coming out. And then it's like, oh shit. Yep. Just drop that word. Didn't I?
When, like, cause this is, maybe you need a nap, right? Like one of the things for my 3 big takeaways from the interview that we did is the first one is just how amazing you are, right? How smart you are, how much you do, right? And maybe you need a nap.
That's exactly. My doctor goes, you need to go on vacation. And when I mean vacation, just sleep for 4 days. I was like, yeah, that would be nice. I don't disagree with that one.
Yeah. We do. I think that's important. Like self-care.
Yes.
For me. Right. And in what I do, self-care is really important, especially as I continue to talk about topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion. The D, right? That was the last thing we talked about last time. So
focus on the D, I think is what you said.
I think
you guys, we're keeping it lighthearted today. Hey, like, look, come on.
I keep telling people I bring humanity into HR, right? And the human side. And the fact is we're all human, right? Yes. We all make mistakes. And we have to have a sense of humor.
Yes.
We have to have a sense of humor, right?
Yes.
And a sense of humor that is right-sized, right? Not laughing at other people.
No.
Laughing with people.
Laughing at myself, totally fine. No problem with that.
Right.
I have to.
But self-care, right, is really important. And making sure that I'm going to the well that's full.
Mm-hmm.
And not looking, not going to the dry well looking for a drink of water, right? Where
for sure
I know I'm not going to find it. So,
yeah, I mean, at every end of every show, I say find a way to serve, and sometimes that we forget that sometimes that could be just serving yourself, because if your cup isn't full, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like I know that kind of cliche, but the statement is still true. So really do take a look at that and just saying, hey, I mean. Last night I was in bed by like 7 o'clock last night. It was like, okay, I'm done. I can't go anymore. So we got Peter saying she tells me when, why, and how I fell. Therefore, I never need to complain.
Oh, Peter's still talking about his wife. Okay, that's hilarious.
Peter, we love you, buddy. We love you. All right, so let's jump into. We had just a kick-ass episode that just dropped. For those that haven't had a chance, don't watch it now because you're listening to the comedy sketch right now that's going on Friday with the Furniss Fast Lane. But go check out the YouTube. It's on YouTube or a podcast, wherever you get your podcast. But what was one of your takeaways from the show?
Really, like how tired I am of talking about these 3 symptoms, right? That I mentioned in the thing. Like when will we stop talking about turnover, the gender gap, and our inability to attract talent as separate and individual problems,
Yeah.
right? That probably is one of I am tired. And another takeaway, other than you being like so incredibly amazing, right? So smart. And is that be careful what you put out into the universe, right? When you put things out into the universe, a couple times during our conversation, I talked about the research that I really want to do because we don't have it's specific to retail, right? There, yes, Brian, that episode is R-rated. You should go and watch it
R
immediately.
for
Well,
rat,
not
though.
immediately. Finish this. Um, I put that out in the universe that I really want to do this research, and it's starting to happen like crazy in the last week or so. And I'm having a lot of different conversations about how to get that done, because we just don't have research that is specific to retail, right?
No.
And the numbers don't lie, as we all know. And so I'm excited.
That's awesome.
And scary too. It's scary, but I've made everything else up as I go. So
you know what? Just walk in the room with confidence. No one's going to ask anything. I mean, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't know doing half the time. I'm like, but she looks like she does. She's walking really fast with paper. She's got to know what she's going somewhere really important. No, I'm not. It's my fantasy football league. Don't worry about it.
So those are my takeaways.
I love it. And to go back here, I just want to touch on something. This is not something necessarily we cover in the show, but when the brain is so insanely powerful that we forget this a lot of times. We're only using 10% of our brain at most. I think Einstein used 12%. So knowing that the brain is so powerful and so much of it is untapped, when you really do put things out in the universe, it is going to come back to you. So make sure you really want it and continue. It's not just putting it out once. It's having, whether it's a vision board, whether it's, hey, I'm going to constantly, the affirmations, whatever it is, but it is nuts how quickly that happens when it's going to happen on its own timetable. But once you start putting it out there, how quickly it can happen. So yes, we've got Jeff saying, we talked last night in a podcast about how specifically mental health support should be part of the benefits. Amen. And that dealers offers employee. I could not agree with that more. Amen.
Amen. And lots of times as HR, maybe it's wrapped in to some of the benefits, but we don't help our people understand how to utilize their benefits in the highest and best way, right?
Or it's it's not included at all. Like one of the two. Like, I mean,
I think there's a mental health there are mental health parity laws. Anyway, that gets into the boring shit that nobody that's when I get called the PETA, right? Yep. When I start talking about the boring stuff, and that's no fun. But there are extra things, right? To Jeff, right? Hey, Dusty. To Jeff's point.
Love you, Dusty.
Things to help your employees feel seen and heard. At NADA, I saw, I experienced being seen and heard.
Nice.
In a way that was surprising to me, and ended up, I was able to use this experience in my talk when I was talking about emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. This was really impactful for me. Some people who know me know that I don't drink, right? And I have not had a drink in 30 years or so. Wow. So remember, my talk was kind of about inclusion. So not kind of, it was about inclusion.
It was 100% of inclusion. Actually, that was the name of the title, which is inclusion. Sandy, come sing it now.
and how to get some, right? Like what leaders need to do. And two of those things are to develop emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. So because I don't drink, sometimes I might feel a little bit on the outside, especially when I'm in Vegas, when I'm at all these parties, when it's 3:00 and the bar, some booths have a bar all damn day.
Yep.
Right? Like there's all these, and there are times when I might feel like on the outside or not a part of. I mean, there's even some conferences that I haven't even thought about going to because they have the name bourbon in them. They're probably fantastic conferences. I'm like, that's not for me. Anyway, so there's a chief officer of a giant company. And I was at a mixer, like the happy hour mixer,
Yeah.
something for Wokan. And I am acquainted with her, right? Like I know her. Somehow she knew this about me, right? And she noticed that I was there without a drink in my hand. And she said, Brian, I'm giving a workshop. Come talk to me. We can figure this out. She came over to me and she said, hey, Sandy, let's go over to the bar. We have some non-alcoholic drinks, right? Like we've gotten, and
which is really big now.
It seems super small, right? But the impact for me, I didn't say anything to her at the time. I've since told her about it. I didn't say anything to her at the time, but you know who I talked to? I talked to two people who I am really close with, who I'm intimate with. And I was like, you will not believe what just happened. Like this. So I became immediately a raving fan, right? Like I admired her. I think she's an amazing leader and person, but now I'm a fan. So imagine if we see our people, and to Jeff's point, notice what's happening in the world, in their world, right? Which frames everything. Imagine if we can make raving fans of our employees just by seeing them.
Yeah. And to your point, I went through, this is a while ago, but same thing. I was constantly, I know we all joke, and Peter, you'll say this real quickly. I always find a way to make Tito's into the show somehow, either by saying it or whatever. And there was a long time where I didn't drink. I was the designated driver all the time. And it gets old, man. It gets old. And so like people, of those around me at least knew at the time I was, I didn't drink. And so they would almost like be protective of, hey, let me make sure that drink doesn't have alcohol, or, hey, let's get you something else. But to your point, even if you're in a, let's say you work for a company and maybe it's a religious thing, and I'm not getting into religion and politics. I'm just saying if the majority of the company is a certain religion and you're not, and I have definitely been that one, it can turn real quickly. And people start talking shit about you and blah, blah. So just really be mindful. We think of inclusion so often that we go back to this DEI. The majority of people think it is race. Well, no, it's so much more than that. It's diversity on every aspect. If you're only going to hire someone that looks like this, that thinks the same way as you, that practices the same religion as you, that, oh, you've got to be a party animal or whatever it may be, you've lost sight of all of this because you've now pigeonhole yourself into this is what it's going to be. And if you don't meet this criteria, and it's not like a quality criteria, it's just what we think is a good human being, which that makes absolutely no sense to me, but it happens so often.
I think that we talked about before, there's a lot of pushback with DEI, right? Like pushback, or it's, I just had a conversation just about an hour ago, had a conversation about this same thing. And I think that part of the reason why it comes back to inclusion, right? There's certain groups that don't feel included in the DEI, but you are, right? Like everybody has some aspect of diversity, right? I'm no longer a caregiver for young children, right? Therefore, I've got some privilege. I can travel, right? Like there's nothing holding me back anymore. My kid's 20. I don't have to stay at home. I have a cat instead of a dog, right?
you know what? I can't hire you. You're a cat person. I'm sorry. Like that. There we go.
But I think, we don't intentionally hire people who are just like us. It's natural.
Yep.
Right. Like this is a natural thing that we all do. And we have become, society has become, and I read not long ago, we're actually more segregated than we were before, like in the 60s.
That doesn't, it's sad, but that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, like I see what's going on in the world. You're like, what the hell?
We go to church with, we live with, we do, everything, even in your dealership, right? Have a dealership, all dealership lunch. Technicians are sitting with technicians, accounting sitting with accounting. the two parts people are sitting.
Everything is so siloed. Okay, BDC, you got to sit over here. Finance is over here. It's nuts. And
But
to
the
Peter's,
result from that is that we don't get to know each other,
mm-mm.
right? And proximity is super important, and understanding. When I'm talking about lunches, right? Like, I love when people have company lunches, and I love to have this one rule. The only rule is there's no work talk.
I love it. I love it.
Right? Like, you can't talk about work, because and then when you, as a manager, right, as you get to know your people, it gives you a different perspective. There have been many times in my HR life, there's all right, performance is low. And this was a high performer, right? High performer, something's happening. Don't know what's going on. I go talk to somebody, and I might find out their child, something really important, right? Like their child. Oh, look at Jeff. Wow. They're
True.
something with their kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
That gives you a different frame. So, and that only happens when we create spaces that are safe enough for employees to share what's really going on with them, right? And it can change. I think we can, I know I'm not going to change the whole entire world. I just want to change like one little piece of it, right? That's what's important to me.
I love it. And if anyone's watching or you're listening, but to watch right now, Jeff's comment just put, I turned down a large automotive consulting gig because I felt I could not go to bars and strip clubs to entertain the target dealers. And that's a big one. Like I've definitely been in those positions, Jeff, as well, that I happened to be consulting for a dealership, and that was a very I keep going back to religion here, but a very religious dealership, and they're doing okay. God bless, that's great. The flip side is that 10 minutes later, the owner is MFing me and telling me what a horrible human being I am. I'm like, wait. I just want to get this straight. You're only hiring religious people that are in the exact same religion you, that go to the same building with you on a certain day. But then 10 minutes later, you're going to MF at me in front of my superior. Like, it was the OEM was in there, everyone was in there, and they just all just sat there, and I'm just getting reamed. And I just go, if we would be more, going back to Peter's point, is hire for creative debate allows for growth. If people would look outside and say, hey, I can bring in this person, they may not look or talk or act the way I want, but they have the qualities that we need to have our business be prosperous. Why would you not hire that person? And then also, if you're going to have those things in place, that you are XYZ, that, hey, I'm going to be go in a different direction here. But I've used the example before that I had a store that wanted to be all this pet friendly stuff. And I go, do you guys even like pets? Like
authenticity is super important.
Come on. And it was like, no, but I saw another business that did this and did really well. I go, yeah, they have a freaking dog park. It's because they're all surrounded in dogs. Like, they love animals. So going back to the authentic, like you said, authenticity, like, if you're going to do X, whatever it may be, just make sure everyone has a bad day. I get that, but you're going to really do what you say you're going to do, not just talk about it.
So something I say is that culture can't be built with words.
No.
You can put that on your website, your core values, and, like the example that you gave us all, a dealer like that, everybody knows what it's like to work around here. And if you answer that question, and that's what your culture is, it's not those values that you put up on the wall or in your handbook. It is the behaviors that you see, right? So, people won't stay, especially millennials and Gen Z, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we talked about this, that millennial and Gen Z, 64 folks, y'all, 64% of the workforce is going to be millennial and Gen Z.
That's nuts.
Right? And I think that this is we're going to have to change. So just get out of it. Do it now.
Do it now.
Right? Like, why change can be so challenging, right? But it is the only constant. And if we don't do it, what's going to happen? We're just going to have to do it anyway. I mean, look, y'all had to figure out how to sell cars without everybody coming in during the pandemic, right? You couldn't do it. And then we did it.
Yep. Just like, I mean, remember when you and I have been in the industry long enough to know that originally there was no internet. So the leads were faxed, and then the internet came and everyone lost their freaking mind that the internet was going to ruin everything. I'm not doing it. I'm going to get my Auto Trader. I just got to go back in the actual Auto Trader magazine. Well, things change. I'd call me crazy, but it doesn't matter if it's our industry or another industry. Change is inevitable. Like it's always going to happen. So just deal with it. And
the rest of that is that the suffering, you don't have to suffer over.
no,
You don't have to suffer.
We've got Peter coming in here, and then you take the plant out of the pot when you get it home so it can live, grow, and most importantly, survive. When you look outside of our environment for growth. And Peter, it's very true. I'm going to go back to, and Josh Adams, if you're still on this episode, Josh Dreen had another example of, and these are all real examples. These aren't like something they're like actually happened, but they're looking at turn rate and how quickly it was happening. They noticed that one manager in particular had a much less, like people were staying longer versus the other ones were like super, super high. And they looked into it for a bit. And then eventually management just said, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, just go back to your old ways and don't change anything. But like, if you can see that there's this manager over here is doing things right, and there's the people underneath him, they're staying longer. Why would you not want that? We all know it's like 5 times, 10 times harder to expensive to bring on a new employee than it is, or a customer, than it is just to freaking keep them. I mean, we've done so many shows on that portion of it, but it drives me bonkers. Like, at that point, that business knew, hey, they're doing it right. But you know what? Don't worry about it. Just go back to the old ways of things. We're not going to change anything.
2 things.
What?
I do in my workshops, one of the things I do is like, it's such a fun exercise to figure out the cost to hire, right? You know, like the turnover numbers, people put it out there. You're losing $1.5 million. To me, that's like so big. And some of those numbers are not hard. Like, I like figuring out how much you spend every year hiring people.
Yep.
Right. And I have this little formula. It's so much fun. And every time managers are like, holy crap, that's like 2 or 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and the other thing that you mentioned, turnover or churn, or attrition now is like the new word. Well, whatever. I call it turnover. It's turnover. Do it monthly, drill it down. Like you were saying, you will see patterns. You will see patterns. And no, it's not measured on
the statement.
On the statement. You need to do this. Your HR needs to do it. It's not rocket science to do turnover. I always do it. I always have done it monthly, per dealership, per manager. You can even break it down to new sales, pre-owned sales. You can break it. The deeper you go, the better the story.
Yep. And I think that Jeff, I remember, I'm going to give you credit for this, Jeff. I think it was you. I'm going to say it was that you were working with a group that their turnover, it was just, the numbers were staggering. So Jeff, if it was you, throw those numbers in the chat here, because I can't remember what the numbers were, but you and I were having to talk about it. I, once again, hope it was you. If not, you're getting credit for it. It was just nuts how quickly people were turning over, and then the millions of dollars that were being just lit on fire because they couldn't keep their people. Now, today's age, it is really different on how you hire. Go back 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, very different. And now it's like, okay, so knowing that things are different, what are you doing to keep your employees? Like, it is such a big one. And because, like you said, 64% are millennial and Gen Z, that's a completely different clientele. Like, that's
Gen
a different.
Alpha is coming fast. Gen Alpha is coming fast.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They're coming behind fast, right? What's that say?
130. So Jeff had asked Peter, has the cost impact of losing a salesperson, a tech, hashtag staggering, 132,000 for each tech and 119,000 for sales using NADA figures, which is just bonkers.
Now, don't get me wrong, right? Attracting and retaining it's hard, right? Especially in where we are right now. I hear managers say things like, people just don't want to work. When you, like, what I would encourage people to do, like, why do you think that? Right. And is it true? Why do I believe that? Because, well, if people aren't showing up, right? They don't show up.
Go look at yourself on Glassdoor before you start bitching about that. Just going to put it out there.
I hear this all the time, but they don't even show up for their first day.
Yep.
Or they don't show up for the interview. There's a lot of ghosting happening. And it is a balance, like getting people in. It's a balance of sales. So you all are the best salespeople in the world, right? There's nobody better than at sales in the car business. Well, when you're a hiring manager, you are now a salesperson for selling. You need to understand what the value proposition, why somebody should come and work for you. Brooke, you talked about the why before, right? That's important once you get them to understand their particular why, to make sure you got the right person in the right role. Talk to somebody today, and we were talking about a particular person. I was like, well, maybe they might be better over here doing something else, right? And they thought, oh, I never thought about that. No, we don't have to pigeonhole people, right? We can move them. You need to understand what that is, because you got to get them convinced before you get them in. So that first phone call that you make to somebody on Monday that you want them to come in on Friday, number one, that's not quick enough. You need to get them in faster, because don't forget, they have options. There's about, the last time I looked, it's like 1.4 job openings for every job seeker. Now that has come down in like the last year, but it's not going to go much further because it's demographic, right? We just don't have the working age people to fill the roles. So, you know, you got to get on them fast, but in that first phone call, like, pump them up a little bit. Tell them why you like them. Get them, let them know that you're really interested in them and why, and then tell them why you love working at your dealership and why they're going to love it too. Right?
Yeah.
So come on in. I can't wait to talk to you. So,
but understand, if you do that though, and you're pitching all the businesses, and you're not like that, they're going to find out. There are so many, there's Glassdoor, there's, not Plenty of Fish. That's something completely different. Fishbowl or something like that. It's something fish. I don't know. Brook Trout. I don't know.
Next we'll be talking about Tinder. Wait.
Is that still a thing? Damn it, that's not the right one. I think it's Fishbowl is what it is. There's so many different ways that they can go to say, okay, you're saying all these words coming out of your mouth sound really flowery, nice, but I can check this to see if it's actually legitimate or not. And then wait, because our industry, while it is very large, it is incredibly small.
Yep.
One phone call to figure out.
Biggest, smallest.
That's funny. You've had a lot of turnover. Why is that the case? I mean, so there's even questions you and I've talked about. I don't know if we talked about it in our episode, but in general, about as when you are the interviewee, ask those questions. Ask to figure out, because people will throw them on culture, and it drives me bonkers that people just throw on this word all the time and they don't even know what the hell it is. Like, they're just throwing on buzzwords, but really knowing, okay, great. How many people how long are the average of people staying here? What's their turnover rate? Let me talk to somebody, but as a manager, you should be having them interact with whatever, if they're BDC, having them interact with sales and everyone else. And Peter's telling me to swipe right.
Right. Swipe right. You should have stories to tell.
Yes.
About each of your values, right? Because culture is built with behaviors. So if one of your core values is integrity, have some stories to talk about that. Yeah. Right. Like, and that is how you connect with people, right? It's one of the C's of onboarding: connection, connection and community, at least mine. And there was something else you said, Brooke.
Oh, maybe it was
made me think about something, but it's gone. But
just making sure that a lot of people you hear, as you said, is they are getting ghosted. Well, I know it's difficult, but take a look inside. Figure out why is that the case? Because I can't remember the stat right now, and
it's not always them.
No, it's
not. I know what I was going to say, because they're, especially the younger generations, they're not waiting to make a stay-go decision. They're doing it fast because, number one, Gen Z. We talked about this on. They've got a side gig,
and that's right? A big one.
They've got income coming in, right? They don't really. I mean, they may need your job, but they know that there's other ones, right? So they're not gonna wait around. And especially Gen Z's viewpoint is they come in with zero trust. They don't trust that what you've told them is true anyway, right? So you need to show them right away that it is. First of all, you need to make it so that it is.
And Peter coming in here hot with culture is something in the fridge in the dealership. It's been there for years. It's green and black. It's probably growing some mold on it a little bit. Yeah. But at least the fridge has culture on it. So we're okay, Peter, right?
it's not all bad, right? Like it's sometimes it's there are dealerships and dealer groups that really make the effort. right? It's a challenge in, especially, I don't know, it's just such a unique business where you've got a culture that comes when there's groups, right? And as the groups get bigger, you've got a corporate culture, right? Something that comes down from the top. But most of the time, each dealership is going to have its own mini culture within that larger culture. And all that comes from your GM.
Amen.
It-
And I think that, if you go back 5 years ago, probably, if I actually had to shut my company down because I was told in the beginning that it was okay to have my own company, and then was told, nope, that's not the case. And if you flash forward now and tell someone that, not only are they quitting, they're gonna go berserk on you. Like, it understand, and I forget the stat here that of how many Gen Zs now have a side gig, but just understand the majority do. I mean, I don't know if it's 90%. It's a very high number. So understand and be okay with that as long as it's not infringing on what they're doing at work.
Right.
Let them do their thing. Like, what's the big deal? And these non-competes, don't even get me started on non-competes, but little things like that speaks to keeping people in the dealership longer, keeping your employees longer.
We should do a show on non-competes, because if you have them, you should be very careful, because lately the FTC and the NLRB is getting really, really crazy. And if you do really need them, have them for an appropriate level of employee, right? C-suite. But like, don't have your entry level person sign a non-compete and then they go find another job and you ruin somebody's just, God.
I can say as an owner that if an employee isn't happy and or let's say that they are happy, they just found another stepping stone in their career, God bless them. Good for you. You know what? I'm so glad I could be a part of this journey. It's going to suck to lose you and your amazing talent. But I also understand I'm never going to make you sign something, because once I've been the victim of that, where we are forced to sign one. It didn't matter. It was that or lose your job. And it cost me dearly. And so if someone's not happy, let them, or like I said, they found something better, let them go. Be free, cheesy bread, free.
Another thing too, I've talked to people who didn't know that they signed one.
Oh, a lot of those.
Or didn't know what they signed. And, in everything I do when it's in the HR space, right? Lots of times, I do training for managers, helping them to know what they can and can't ask in an interview, and get down to the real question.
Jeff, your comment was up here earlier about one thing you can't ask is, are you pregnant? That's a good one. That's
right.
A good one,
I know. Just tell them I'm pregnant for the not drinking. What I usually do, Jeff, is like, I'll tell somebody I don't drink and they're like, oh, good for you. And I'm like, it's good for you too. Trust me. So,
the calories you're losing. Yes.
Oh, see, I go off on a tangent. I lose my.
That's okay. You're doing training for managers on what they can and cannot ask, and we got on the pregnant part of it.
Yeah, and I can't remember exactly what I was saying, but it was good. It'll come back to me.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Probably 30 seconds after we.
Probably once we hit in the stream, you're like, gosh, okay, we'll put it in the comments later. But it is like little things like that, or I mean, even something as the one I always love is when a manager will ask the woman that it has kids at home, "Are you going to be able to do your job? Do you need to take some time off?" What?
It's the assumptions that we make, right? It's these preconceived notions that lead to a bias that help us make bad decisions, right? And so that's why it's so important for us to understand what our bias is, and that right there, right here. I think we talked about this. I've been asked, "Are you married and do you have kids?" Because the bias behind. Not nefarious or anything, but like, this is just a belief that someone had that those two things would prevent me from being able to complete the essential duties of the role in some way. Right. So
I don't disagree with you, Peter. By citing this, you acknowledge you understand the above. Dumbest statement ever.
Yeah. It's
truth.
Really,
it is.
That's what we do, though, right? Like
all the time.
That's what we do. And in dealership, in particular, I mean, it is. There's this thing between. I wish we could get. We have to check the box, right? It is actually compliance, and checking the box is the first step, right? And but we must begin to go a step further, right? Checking that box, like let's say harassment training.
Mm.
I did my harassment training.
I
right?
watched the
And there they
video.
are.
Well, it's not a videotape anymore, but yeah, that just dated me. Hello. I watched the video on some type of streaming method, I'm sure. Not a VHS, bro.
On an app. There's so many apps. There's so many ways to do that now. And I always do recommend it. It's really good because if you have a lawsuit, for example, with any kind of harassment and discrimination, the first question is going to be, did you explicitly tell these people to not do and say
Blah, blah, blah.
these kinds of things, right? And you can then say, here I go with my scribble page again. Yeah. Here it is. They've signed that little, they've signed that this was the date that they took the training. Right.
Whether they fell asleep through it's not my problem, but they watched it because I checked my box.
They were there. They were there. I've had to wake somebody up one time in an orientation. The second time I woke this kid up, I sent him home. Like I was given and I'm not boring. Let's just put that out there. I'm not boring. So I was given a new employee orientation, and I made an executive decision the second time he fell asleep.
You're like, were you maybe he had a newborn at home and he was, we flipped the script here. He's taking care of the newborn, been up all night, and therefore he
my words against me. that very well may have been, and he did have a second opportunity. I didn't fire him. I said, hey, there's another one tomorrow.
Yeah, just get some sleep, buddy.
It's important that you pay attention here. I gave him a second chance.
Okay.
I gave him a second chance. And then I told his manager, look, I sent this kid home. We can do an orientation another time.
Hello. Is there anything else? This time is like flying by right now, Sandy.
I know.
Anything else? Like any other takeaways you want to touch on?
No, just don't be afraid to do. If you are an organization that is saying to yourself, I just don't want to wade into I feel like your heart's telling you need to do something. You know that you don't reflect your customer base, right? But you're afraid to do something. I think probably the biggest thing I would say is don't be afraid. What did somebody said something about the only thing we have to fear is fear itself?
Yeah, someone I think pretty important said that. I think
it was Kennedy, JFK. Don't be afraid. Do it the right way, and call me. I'll help you.
Yeah, and to Jeff's point is apparently we need to do a. He says, "Wow, we should have a session on onboarding, Brooke." I know Peter and I would be all over that. Yeah, it's. I agree.
The thing, right? All these things are really important, right? But we've been talking about like onboarding. That's going to stop if we onboard them in a great way, then suddenly they'll stop leaving. You do need to do good onboarding.
Yeah.
But that's not because it's not the wound.
Well, and people get confused. Orientation and onboarding, they are two separate things. Two separate things. Like not even, they're similar, but not really. And so we just lump into one category.
And we often do if we do an onboarding, right? Onboarding can last up to 18 months or more, depending on the organization, right? We talk about onboarding, but for sales, right? Every role.
Service, sorry, you don't get them any finance. No.
You know what? We should have a fixed ops show because number one, I think fixed ops managers are the most talented.
They're phenomenal. People
managers. They always have the most number of people, right? And they get the least amount of when I don't know, maybe it's changed, but I was brought up in this business where fixed ops is called fixed ops because that's where your money is. Right? It's fixed income that is keeping your delership going. So
that's why the other side's called variable.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I learned. That's what I said. I don't know if it's changed or not. But
and especially now the way that people are holding on their cars longer, which means okay, if we're not selling as much and obviously profits have went down, what does our fixed ops look like? And that is, anyone that's watched the show for 2 seconds knows I have a massive soft spot for fixed ops. I love fixed ops, and I just applaud what they do because they're doing it for a lot of times against all odds. When I say against all odds, they don't have the marketing that sales has. but they're making more. They're making the fixed income come in. They're not getting the love. They're seen as a redheaded stepchild. And it's not all dealerships are like that. There are some dealerships who do a phenomenal job. But that being said, the majority just see it as like a necessary evil, almost like. So I applaud fixed ops like crazy. they gotta put up with a lot.
Yeah. If you're a GM, go talk to all your technicians.
Please.
I mean, that's something else that I've seen change. The GM role has become less of a overall dealership and just a variable ops role, where for me, a GM is over everything anyway. So,
and Peter, to your point, a tour of the dealership is not orientation, nor is orientation is onboarding. And to your point,
give a tour.
Do give a tour, but like that's the same thing as like, here, plop in front of this computer and take 20 hours of tests, and then you can be the number one salesperson. You can be the number one whatever. That is not
start
onboarding.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
like
that is.
Things like that not stop you from starting. Like if you start with a tour, start with a tour.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was
show people where to park.
That's another one. We had Stephen Moore on last year. And for those that don't know Stephen, love him to death. But I can't remember the stat he threw out, but I was like, hold up, say that one more time. But it was a astronomical number of the managers that don't get training until I think it was 6 months to a year. The first training they get on being a manager is 6 months to a year or something like that. After I go, what? We're just throwing people to manager business. Yeah, that's for the car business. The first time they're getting any type of managerial training is 6 months to a year after they've been made a manager. I just go,
I automatically want to know what kind of training is it?
Ask Stephen. I'll tag Stephen in this one because he'll know.
God.
Yeah, but I was blown up. But I was like, you know what? That actually makes sense. Like, how many times do we actually get any type of training other than sit in front of a computer and memorize these courses, and then you can go do whatever you need to do? Like, that's the majority of what training is. But then we wonder in 30 days why they quit.
And to give dealers and not really a pass. There's a lot of shit that dealers have to deal with.
Oh, right? So much.
They're treated like a bank, right? So then, we know that there's all the FTC. Who are we ordering cards for?
No, like he's just exactly like, we'll order your cards.
Oh, this is what we say. Yeah, and then we'll see.
Yeah, it's true though. Like, let me see if you're gonna make the cut or not. Then we'll see.
Yeah, that's one way to make them happy. But dealers, it is a lot to do, right? There's just so much to do, and then and this training and that training to keep the FTC off your back and making sure that you're keeping private information private the way that it should be. That extends to your employee information too, by the way.
Yep.
There is a lot that dealers have to do, and this stuff doesn't have to be rocket science, but it does need to be authentic. It needs to be real, and it needs to show your people and your candidates that you care.
Jeff, I don't think that you're one to refrain from saying anything. So
he's just biting his lip.
I think it was going back to just like the onboarding, and that's my guess is Jeff. Knowing Jeff is probably about the onboarding and the lack of training.
Biting his lip, or is it like a?
I think one of the two. I think it's maybe he wants to say something. I don't know, but Jeff, have at it, dude. Like, have you not heard the words that have been said on the show already? Like, just have at it, man. It's totally fine. Oh man.
I mean, there's biting your lip and there's biting your tongue.
Yes.
Right? Biting your tongue, you're not saying something. Biting your lip could be construed in a variety of ways.
Oh, that is for the After Dark show for sure. So
I have so much fun with you.
Yes. That is the fun. It's like anyone that's on the show, I'm like looking at the time over here. We'll wrap this up here, but I purposely try to make these Friday shows the most mindless thing that someone's going to do all day. Like, you already have enough shit going on. You're at the end of the week. Your brain cells are probably fried. Let's just have a little fun, discuss it. The episode just dropped, interact with the awesome community of people engaging right now. So that's kind of the point. So I'm glad that you're having a good time.
It's that every interaction I have with you has been allowed. Don't even talk to me about job descriptions. Peter Smith is bringing up job descriptions.
I love the one. It's always like, we want someone. The ones lately I've seen are on AI. They want like 5 years of experience with AI. I'm sorry. Well, AI has been around for a long time. It's only been in the last year that it's blown up. So how is someone supposed to get 5 years? Oh, by the way, we're going to pay you $50,000. What? So it doesn't matter what it is, but social media, dealer, digital marketing manager, that's the same thing. They'll go on like these lists and lists and lists. But then when you get there, you're like, this isn't even remotely what you told me. And you're paying me half of what I should be doing. So
Yeah.
that's another hot button.
Do they even have a job description, first of all?
Do they? Well, they might, but it's probably something that has
From
nothing to do with what they're doing
2000.
anyway.
It was from the year 2000.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yes.
they don't even do another tip. Just make sure you have your essential duties, and your job description, if you have one, is not your ad.
No.
That's not your job ad.
My ears so huge. Yes, it drives me bonkers, Jeff. Like and I've seen more of like if it's a real AI job, people should know that those are getting paid big money.
Are they?
So when someone comes in and says you need to have AI experience with 5 years, 6 years, and they're not paying X, first off, AI probably wrote the description for them. They don't know what is put out there, but they don't even understand what it is that they're wanting. They may say, in this case, AI, and they may say whatever, but they don't understand the position at all. And so really understand it to say, okay, does my job description include this? Does it include this? Does it include this? Because based on this, and that's another thing about the younger generation, if price isn't included, the salary isn't included, they'll pass on it. Like, yep. And that's something that I would have loved growing up to have the salary included. It was just like, okay, by the 10th interview, that of the 10 days in the process, maybe 30 days in the process, we'll discuss what you're going to get paid. Hold up. I just wasted a month. What the hell?
I've done orientations that it's been a while, right? Because I haven't worked in dealership since 2017 is when I opened, right? So it's been a little while, but I have been in orientations where, I give them the whole shebang and tell them everything they need to know. And then they ask me, so what am I making? And I'm like,
yeah.
You didn't have this conversation. Your manager didn't tell you. Or uniforms. What am I wearing? Well, this is not going to happen anymore, right? We're talking.
Well, it's still going to happen, but we'll see how long they'll stay in business.
Well, I'm calling them the kids. These kids today.
These kids these days, get off my lawn. Yes,
they're not. They're just. It's not going to happen. Like they're the whole different candidate.
It is 100%.
Get ready.
Sandy, I have kept you for an hour. Audience, thank you for being a part of this. Sandy, just thanks. It's always fun to chat with you and to get the lighter side of some of this, because sometimes it gets so, we got to do this and this. So we're not hiring X. We're not hiring do blah, 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 blah. Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for your action. Got to go apply for a bad job.
Peter's hilarious.
Love me some Peter. Yes, just thank you so much. And to everyone, you all know the drill at this point. Find a way to serve today. And we were talking earlier, just that sometimes that could just be focus on yourself. Like for me, I'm going to go rest my voice for the next 3 hours to try to get it back here, and maybe sleep a little bit, maybe go to the theater room and just watch a movie or something. But whether it's opening a car door, whether it's a kind smile, it doesn't matter really what it is. Just do something to be the joy in someone's life. And with that, everyone, we will see everybody next week.
Thanks everybody for coming. Brian Ortega, Russell Hill. It was really awesome to see all of you, and Jamie Alexander.
Yes, it was and Brian, yes, thank you so much. It was a fun show today, and it may have been more on the MA version today with some of the words that Brooke dropped, but it wasn't intentional for once. It was not intentional. The other swearing, the F bombs, like those are gonna fly. But
we're gonna pull that clip out with because I was like, oh my god.
You can go back and watch this later. Have a good laugh. If you're having a bad day, just go back and watch this episode.
It was good.
All right, everyone. We're going to get out of here. And Sandy, thank you again. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great week.